Welcome to the Wedding Songs Podcast, featuring newly released songs you need to know and the tried and true classics. Get song ideas from the time guests arrive until the last dance of the reception. And now your host, Matt Campbell, founder of MyWeddingSongs.com.
I am Matt Campbell, and today we're going to be talking about creating the perfect wedding playlists. And to help me with this topic is the awesome Justin, the DJ. He is from LaForce Entertainment from the DFW area, and also, of course, will DJ worldwide. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Hey, what's going on, man? How's it going?
Oh, it's going awesome. I'm stoked to have you on the show today, talk about music, my favorite topic. Before we get started, just wanted to ask you, can you give details about one specific wedding that was unique that stood out in your head?
Actually, I have a really recent wedding because I was just editing some footage for this. It was this past weekend. I had to go all the way to Midland, Texas. And for those of you that don't know where Midland, Texas is, they call it the Dusty Butthole because it's in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, and a giant dust storm kicked in, and it was insane. Anyways, we went to Midlands and wedding was great. It was outside, whatever. And during the party, the bride came up to the booth and started dancing next to me while I was DJing. And while she was doing that, the rest of the guests followed her. So now I have 15, 20 people surrounding my DJ booth, and I'm over here, I'm sweating. I'm like, oh no, I have to do something cool because they're right here. So, did a couple quick transitions and, it went really well. I got some really good reactions from them. But I got it all on my 362. I literally just put it on my Instagram not too long ago. So if you want to check that out, but that was definitely, the beginning of the year is already early, but so far that's been the highlight of the year so far.
Cool. So you mentioned Midland, and there's a country band called Midland. So do you play Midland in Midland?
I don't know, bro. Do they play Florida Georgia Line in Florida?
Yeah.
Not really. I've never been, being from Texas, born and raised. I lived in Fort Worth. I lived in Denton. I lived in Dallas and, all the places. But I've never been a really big country guy. It's just never been my thing. There's a couple of country songs here and there that I really like some of the new Morgan Wallen stuff, the new Post Malone stuff, and of course some of the classics. You got George Strait, Tim McGraw, that kind of stuff. Of course, being in Texas, you're gonna get those clients. They're all we at least want a couple country songs here and there. But
Sure.
When clients book me, they know what they're expecting. I'm not the country guy. So, and when I get clients that reach out and they're all like, yeah, we love country, we love this and that, I just be straight up honest with them. Hey, I love your vision. I think it's going to go great for you, but I might not be the right DJ for you. But, and here's the but, we got tons of guys on our team that would definitely be able to handle this wedding for you. I'd love to give you a recommendation. And I think that's step one of making sure that you always have a great wedding is by vetting them just like they're vetting you.
That's the first gold nugget here. I love it. And we were saying before we hit record is how important that is to make sure that you mesh with the couple and the couple meshes with you. You're interviewing each other at the time before signing the contract, not finding that afterwards.
Yeah, because, there's plenty of times where DJs might complain. They're like, man, I got to play a bunch of 90s house music at this wedding, and I don't know anything about 90s house. You're like, well, did you ask them what kind of music they like beforehand? If you would have asked that question or gotten some information or said, send me one of your favorite Spotify playlists, you would know right away whether or not this is going to work out.
Exactly. For those of you who don't know who you are, can you just please introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, my name's Justin. I DJ in Dallas, Texas, working at LaForce Entertainment for over 10 years now, and it's been a great time with that. If I were to describe myself to other DJs, it'd probably be the guy who keeps blasting his face all over your social media. I make lots of videos for all the platforms, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, just trying to carve out a space for myself, not only for clients, but also in the DJ space too. And I think that's important for a client's perspective, because even if I make a video and maybe it's targeted towards the DJs, how to do this, here's a tip for this, a client will still see that kind of content and be like, that guy knows what he's talking about. We should hire the professional, the expert. And that's kind of the lane that I want to put myself in. So I guess, the guy who's just always on your page when you go online. So
Just as a side question to that, how much do you think social media creates the leads for you from all the content? Is it 40% of what you book, or just Trying to get an idea.
I would say it's really close to 50-50. Last year, I think it was very close to 50-50. You know, we get lots of leads through LaForce, our company, and then I get a lot of leads straight through my website from social media. But a lot of times it's not just that aspect where it's the lead directly came from me, because even if a client knows about LaForce first and then me, they still want to pre-vet you right before that initial meeting. They're going to be like, what's this guy about? Right. So they'll go on my page, they'll take a look at all the stuff, and maybe they're already in contact with LaForce, and that extra effort on the social media, the content that they see is the extra push that they needed to say that's the guy. Or maybe sometimes it's not the guy. And honestly, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I always say everybody thinks you have a website and people go to it and this is their first introduction to you. And I'm like, you have to have the things in place for the people that find you on social media that are ready to book you because they can't book you from social media. They're ready to buy. You have to have those call to action and things in place on your website for those people that found you on social media. So I have to say, congrats on growing your social media. Just to give somebody that's listening perspective, you have about 150,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok. Do you think your social media has influenced your playlists?
I think it has a little bit. Man, it's that's a tough question because I like to post stuff for things that I want to play at a wedding. Now, that's not to say that when I do get that client that's like, we love your style, but we're not really big on 2000s hip hop, I can make that work. That's no problem, right? But the things that I want to do as a DJ or the types of parties I want to do as a DJ is what I specifically post. Because I always make the analogy where it's like, if you get a wedding, it's a super cheap wedding, maybe you're trying to fill your calendar, whatever the answer is. If you take a wedding and it's in a trailer park or in a backyard, you shouldn't post videos about that if you want to DJ in massive ballrooms or work with high-end planners. Because if they go online and they see, wow, he's a great DJ, but all he does is DJ at a playground, like, bro. So they're not gonna take you seriously. So even if you're a newer DJ and you haven't really done a ton of weddings, I would skip the content for the events that you don't want to do. And maybe, you might do one wedding at this super nice ballroom. It's a one-off for you, but that's what you want to keep doing. Get as much content as you can from that one wedding and then just like post it out of it for 2-3 months. And hopefully that'll get you in the door for those events that you actually want to do.
That is so important. I guess it goes along with faking it until you make it, but the faking it, you still have to do some of the events that you want to do. And it doesn't happen. I think of artists that exactly what you're saying, the artists and musicians that are doing, fairground concerts, but they want to be doing arenas. You still have to build
Yep.
yourself up, but fully take advantage of those. Even for yourself, if you want to be a speaker and you go and do an important show, then hire the videographer, hire the photographer, get that footage because that's what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nailed it right on the head. I mean, everybody started somewhere, right? Like
Yep.
when you first practiced DJing, you probably sucked, right? Just like the first time you ever post something online, it probably looks terrible and nobody watched it, but you practiced and practiced and practiced and you got better. And the same thing with your networking, like networking with other vendors in your area or even networking with a local DJ that you aspire to be. Just reach out to them. Hey, bro, I'd love to come out and be your roadie. Get that foot in the door and eventually you'll get there if you put in the work.
Awesome tips. So, where do you get your music inspiration?
Honestly, music in terms of mashups or in terms of songs?
I would say songs because the mashups, of course, we all know that you're going to get those from your record pools, whatever
Sure.
that you're using. But where do you get your inspiration to say, oh, this song maybe messes with this song or this song's
Yeah.
trending now?
Yep. I mean, I always kind of take a look at the Spotify charts is a really easy spot you can look at. They have a playlist on there that they update every week called Viral Hits. And that's a good one you could check out and see. Even if you're not a person who looks at TikTok a lot, it's still important to know what those TikTok songs are because they're super easy songs that you can literally throw in for 10-15 seconds and all the young people are going to go crazy for it for a hot second. That's a good way to spice up your set. I also subscribe to the New Music Friday too. Kind of
Mhm.
take a look at stuff that's coming out now. And if I see a bigger artist like a Taylor Swift or a whoever, and they have a new song comes out, I'm taking a listen and seeing is this a party vibe? Is this a cocktail vibe? To kind of refresh the music that I'm playing at weddings.
I use the New Music Friday too, and yeah, I love that one. Exactly what you said. And what's sad is that they've changed it up where there's a lot of unknown artists on it now. So like 50 to 100, and you're like, I don't even know who these people are.
Right.
Never heard
But
of
that's
them.
the point. It's new
Yeah.
music, you know? It's
Yep.
like Taylor Swift can't make music forever. Well, I know the Swifties hope she can, but you know, like the artists can't make music forever. Like Rihanna hasn't had a new song in, I don't know, or at least a new album like 10 years. So it's
Yeah.
just like the new artists come in and the old artists go until they need money and then they come back. But you know, so it's one of those things where like you started somewhere, right? When it comes to like Doechii, she won, I think she won, she didn't win new artist. I think she was new hip hop album. I can't remember what the
Yep.
category was, but a year ago nobody knew who she was and now she has a Grammy, you know?
Yep. And her new song, Anxiety, love it.
Yep. Yep. I was trying to think of a different song to mash up with cuz it's that one's sampled with
Hmm.
somebody I used
Godier.
to know, right? Is that the same song?
Yep. Hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was trying to think of like what's another 2010s weird song like that I could mix with it over it, not for an event unless it goes off, but to just post online for fun. I was thinking about that, and there's a lot of songs where it's just like, man, it just doesn't hit the same, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little slower, but I don't know. We'll see. So many songs we think are going to take off that never do, and vice versa. So you're known for quick mixing. Do you think that this is a trend or it's going to be expected from professional DJs?
I think it's definitely a trend for sure, even through clients too, because you know the clients that are getting married now, 20 to 35, right? And that's the era of the 2000s, the 2010s. And when they went out to go do the club or the bar, there usually isn't a band. It's usually a DJ or a jukebox or whatever, right? And when they go out to a club like that and they see a DJ and they're trying to keep people dancing, you know, keeping the groove going, they want the songs to keep going. And then on top of that, the TikTok factor. I keep mentioning TikTok. I don't even I don't even watch TikTok. I just post on there, but the factor of like when someone goes online and they're watching videos, they're swiping at a crazy rate. They're watching 10 videos in a minute. And when a song like the Doechii Anxiety song or you know whatever comes in, they're hearing that song every other time, but they only like that 10-second snippet or so. And so when you're playing music that the guests really only know 10 or 20 seconds or just the chorus or this or that, that's what they're going to expect when you play the song. They don't want to hear the first, second, third verse or the intro part or whatever. They want to hear anxiety, like you know, they want to hear
Right.
that part. So
What are the key elements to consider when crafting that wedding playlist for a couple?
I think first off, it's that initial meeting. Like you gotta know what you're getting into first off. And then on top of that, setting the tone for what they can expect, right? So not only understanding what they want to hear, but them also understanding what you're going to play. And I think having a good balance of having a couple must plays, having a couple play if possibles, of course, give me some do not plays of artists you hate, but having the ability to read the crowd in the moment, I think is key because I would much rather read the crowd than stare at a list all day and not
Mhm.
be paying attention to the people dancing. If I had to, you know, DJ off of a list and nobody's dancing, that's not a fun party. And so after that initial talk, obviously understanding what those songs are going to look like for the client, I always ask them after they give me must play, play if possible. I always ask them, what kind of genres of music do you like? And then I literally start listing them out. Like I say, what do you think about hip hop? What do you think about pop? What do you think about Latin? What do you think about alt rock? I go down all the list. So you're probably gonna have some older guests at the wedding, some family and grandma, grandpa, but like, do you want some 70s and 80s? We can sprinkle some of those in here and there, and then you can kind of get a feel of how they really want that playlist to work out. I think that's key, but you know, having that freedom is super important for sure.
I think so too. I think having those surprises, if you're talking to the couple as an example, and you know dad's really into hair bands, and you're thinking, okay, what can I play from that? And then you think, oh, I'm going to play Autograph, turn up the radio,
Right.
or whatever that looks like. But finding that song that, oh, I forgot about this song. This is fantastic. Finding those moments where if you get those, exactly what you're saying, if you're getting those long lists, boy, that just makes it tough.
It makes it tough for you and it makes it tough for the crowd because what if the couple put on a bunch of songs that you can't dance to or nobody
Yeah.
knows or sometimes I get a lot of weddings where they love alt rock and thankfully the couple's friends are also into it, but imagine the groom loves metal and so you play metal and it clears the dance floor. And it's just like, man, that the song wasn't the vibe, bro.
I've had that before, and I say I'm just going to save it to the end, but then the groom is like, "Oh, thanks for playing my song. You made my whole night." So,
Yeah.
yeah, somehow you got to incorporate that too.
It's a
So,
tough balance. It's a tough
yeah,
balance. And I think like when you do notice something like a metal song, one singular metal song on the must playlist, having that conversation. You're like, do you
yeah,
think your friends are gonna like this?
yeah, exactly. Where if all of the groomsmen are out there with the groom dancing to it, okay, you're going to clear the dance floor, but you're going to make that portion of the wedding party happy. It's a tough give and take.
Yeah, definitely a tough situation, but like it just boils down to figuring out who your right client is and what kind of music's going to keep the party going. And, if having that conversation with the groom where it's, are people going to dance to this? Yes or no? And he's like, well, I will. And I'm just like, well, you're not the only one at the wedding, bro. I get it. It's your day. But if you want people to
Right.
leave early, just say that.
Yeah, exactly. Wedding DJs and wedding pros, are you ready to elevate your expertise and keep the dance floor packed? Introducing the Wedding Music Letter, your weekly email written by me, Matthew Campbell, packed with exclusive insights and inspiration. Every Wednesday, I deliver curated playlists, deep dives into wedding and music industries, and practical tips on topics like science of creating a playlist, managing decibel levels, and crafting unforgettable parent dances. Stay informed, stay inspired. Subscribe to the Wedding Music Letter and bring the best music moments to life at every wedding. Sign up today at weddingmusicletter.com. The Wedding Music Letter, expert insights every Wednesday straight to your inbox at weddingmusicletter.com. Now back to the show. What do you suggest for couples who are having different music tastes, like we're talking about? Maybe one suggestion, if they're into the alt rock, but the family's heavy into country, maybe you can incorporate that into the cocktail hour or dinner. Are there other suggestions that you have for that?
I think just like you said with the country, that's exactly what I say. Where it's we don't like country, but our family does. We're like, well, usually family leaves after the dance floor opens or a little after that. Let's
Yep.
play it during cocktail dinner so they can hear all the songs that they love. They're gonna love it. They're gonna have so much fun during dinner. Like that's great. When it comes to the party, I get sometimes I'll get couples where it's the bride loves hip hop and the groom hates it, and I'm just like, I just ask him like, how do you want me to deal with this? Because I can't do something that's on the must play and the do not play at the same time. So
Mhm.
I just try and work it out with them. I'm like, okay, where's the line, right?
Mhm.
What kind of hip hop do you hate? What kind of hip hop do you love? And trying to find that balance to make them both happy. Of course, obviously the bride always wins, but when it comes to bouncing around those different genres through the party, obviously quick mixing helps a ton. But you could also use the cookie method or the Oreo method, where it's you have a great song, right? And then
Mhm.
you play a song you're not sure about, which is the cream
Right.
in the middle. And then if it is working out, just let it ride, obviously. But if it's not working out, then you have another great song ready to go in the next deck. And if it's a flop, just like literally turn the song off. Don't even mix it. Don't do anything. Just play the next song and get out of it before it kills it.
It's interesting. I have a philosophy. You have to be thinking at least three songs ahead because exactly for that scenario, maybe you have the cookie, but the middle is the one that really takes off. You're like, oh, geez,
Yep.
I better continue this instead of flipping back because you don't know what the crowd's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You can always be surprised, that's for sure sometimes. Like you'll do a wedding on Friday and you play a song that usually works really well and then it just flops. It just doesn't work. You're like, "Man, is this song dying?" And then Saturday you do a wedding and it's the best song of the night. So it's just like, okay, it's just a weird crowd or a weird vibe, I guess. I don't know.
It's a great transition to my next question because I was thinking about this exactly what you're saying. Maybe you have one of those common songs, the line dance you have, the cha-cha slide or the wobble or whatever, but Flex is really trending right now by Cupid. And
Yep.
like you said, one group may take off, one groom may not. You're just not sure. So when it comes to those classic wedding songs, how do you mix between those classic versus the more unique or modern options?
So I don't really play a ton of line dances, to be honest with you. When it comes to line dances, for the most part, most of them end up on the do not playlist from the client. Like obviously the chicken dance and that kind of stuff is usually a no-go. And we're in Texas, so YMCA is not as big as it is over in New York or something like that. But a lot of the clients that I work with, they grew up in that time frame where there was a ton of line dances like cha-cha slide, cupid shuffle, wobble, and every sporting event they went to, every prom or homecoming, or any outside, or what do they call it, like the street parties, I'm talking about, where they just have like a party on the street or a festival or whatever. They hear those songs and they're sick of it. They've been hearing the songs forever. They're sick of it. And when they go to a club, no club DJ's playing the cha-cha slide. At least I've never heard of one. I'm sure somebody has, but it's just like, that's not something that you hear on a nightly basis at the club. And a lot of my clients, they want their wedding to feel like that. They want their music taste to match what they really liked when they were in high school and college. And that was their club era days. And so for the most part, most of my clients don't really want a lot of line dances. Like most of them say no line dances at all. And then I usually tell them like, hey, I'm just to be honest with you, I don't really play line dances either. But if we really, really, really needed to, are you cool with it? Like last case scenario. And they're all like, oh, whatever it takes to keep them dancing. So I'll play some from time to time if I feel like, man, I need to reset the dance floor. That's one of the ways that I'll do it. And another one is a slow country song or a left turn, like all rock song or something like that. Like something that's just completely different from what we've been playing all night. And so that's what I usually do. So I don't really mix those in a ton. I usually, if I do play a line dance, I let it ride, because that's kind of the point, is to let those kind of songs ride.
I love it. When you're saying their club days, are you seeing a two-part question? Are you seeing the dance music, the EDM music trending, and what music do you see trending right now?
It's definitely 2000s or late 2000s, 2010s pop and hip hop, like the 2016, I don't want to call it mumble rap, but like the trap rap. People really seem to be into that. And then the EDM wave, of course, has been big for sure. I think it's kind of tapered off a little bit when it comes to the weddings, and I think that just comes down to the age group of the couples. And that naturally happens, over the years. It kind of shifts, and so in 10 or 15 years, we're going to get a huge re-wave of like Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter and all the girly pop music. So just keep those songs, keep those crates ready in 10 years and you'll be solid. So
It's so funny you say that, because the most influential music is when you're in high school and you're thinking, okay, if they're getting married in their late 20s, early 30s, yeah, 10 years from now, that's when it's going to be coming back. And exactly what you're saying, the mumble rap, is it a lot of it really danceable? It's questionable, depends on the song.
Not really. It's really more of like a twerking and like grinding up on each other, or like if it's fast enough, like jumping in the air, getting crazy. But dancing, unless they're like a break dancer or like, do the crip walk or something, like, nah.
Right. Let's say you're working with a couple. How do you create playlists for different parts? What you're thinking for, we talked about it briefly, the cocktail hour, dinner, and then the party time. How are you breaking that up?
A lot of times they'll use the same music for cocktail and dinner. Not the same songs, obviously, but the same playlist, the same vibe, right? And that's something that I always ask my couples is, what are you picturing for cocktail music, for example? And they'll tell me, or sometimes they're like, I don't even know what I would play for cocktail. And I like to keep mine a little more on the upbeat side. So, like keeping it more fun, more engaging. So it's like people are bouncing around, grabbing drinks, chatting with people, instead of it being like Olive Garden music in the background, right? And so usually when a couple is cool with that kind of vibe for cocktail, they're usually cool with it for dinner. So I'll just kind of keep that same playlist going. But sometimes they'll get couples where it's just like, no, I don't know why. Like some couples will come in and they're just like, we want to hear instrumental only string quartet music for cocktail and dinner. And I'm just like, why? And their reason is, well, because the words will be distracting. And I'm like, what? What? The words are not like, do you think I'm gonna be blasting these songs during cocktail and dinner? And I actually have people ask me, like, yeah, just during dinner, keep the music down. And I'm just like, yeah, duh. I'm not gonna be cranking it to 11 during dinner. So, it just comes down to having the conversation with the client and be like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm not that DJ that your friend got 10 years ago that, they're still pissed off about. This is me. Here's the proof. Here's what I know. And telling them that I got your back. We're going to make this happen how you want it.
I've told this story before where 2 years ago I went to a friend's wedding and played all instrumental music, but then dinner ran long. So it was like 2 hours of this kind of music. And then what happens when the party started? Everybody left because they were bored out of their minds for 2 hours. Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine too.
And especially when they might not have the best planner too, where it's their timeline just flows really badly. They got the cocktail hours 2 hours long, the dinner's super long, the couple leaves the room to take sunset photos and all this and that, and then they come back and then they cut the cake and then they do the toasts. Like, it's just, and if that entire time they're listening to Frank Sinatra the whole time, like, bro, they gonna be asleep at their table or they gonna leave. So if you keep it fun and upbeat, it definitely keeps the blood pumping and keeps them on their toes. Be like, okay, well, we're having so much fun during dinner. Imagine how much fun we're gonna have during the party.
Exactly. How do you handle special requests from couples, such as a song with a personal meaning?
Sometimes I'll get couples that'll tell me, oh, this song just reminds me of my best friend. I think I have a wedding this weekend where that's the case, right? And, depending on the circumstances, I think shouting them out's great. I think that's a really cool way to shout someone else out other than the bride and groom, especially if the bride and groom are making that song on the must playlist a point and even telling me that this song means something. Like my wedding this past weekend, I was playing music. That wedding, they didn't give me a ton of song requests. The groom came up, he's like, hey man, my best man loves Teach Me How to Dougie. I was like, okay. Well, I was at a way different BPM, right? So I was just like, I'm just going to slam it in real quick and then just shout him out. And then, so that's what I did. I stopped the music and I said, y'all make some noise for the best man. This is his song right here. Hit the song. Teach me how to Dougie, teach you. And like everyone just goes crazy, right? So that's a great way to kind of slam something in, especially if it's a couple's request. If a bride comes up to me and asks me for a song, it's getting played as soon as possible. And if it's a super hard transition to make or basically impossible one, I'll just do something like that. You just like, yeah, I'll make some noise for Ashley, the bride, or whatever. And you could also do that. I've heard some DJs where it's just like, if the groom comes up and asks and says like, play this song next, and it's a shit song, you could just be all like, yeah, I'll make some noise for the groom. This is his favorite song right here. And that's like the worst song ever.
And he's already there because he's requesting the song.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah.
That's a little toxic, but it's kind of funny.
Right. Yeah. You're working with the couple. You kind of know what kind of personality that you can get away with that and the crowd. So yeah, I like that idea too, because like you said, to try to transition that, boy, yeah. Talking on the mic is definitely a great way to make that transition. So what advice would you give to couples planning their wedding music?
First off, get a good DJ. You got to do some research. You got to look up them, look up reviews, look on their website, look on social media. You can ask your planner if they've ever heard of them, photographer. Have you ever heard of this guy? Just ask anybody who's in that space too. Get as much insight as you need for any DJ that you're looking into. And understand that being a DJ isn't just me being a glorified Spotify playlist, right? Like there's a craft to it too. Reading the crowd, the transitions, the song selection. It's not something that I can pre-plan in its entirety the night before your wedding, right? And so being able to let go and trust the person that you hired and just being like, he's going to make it work. He's going to make it happen, especially if you did the right research and all you saw was green flags, right? If all you saw was green flags, tell your DJ, hey, here's 20 songs that we love. Here's a couple songs we hate or a couple artists, and then just let them do their thing. If you did all the research right, you're going to have a great wedding.
So how much time do you think that you spend creating your couple's playlist beforehand?
Oh, I definitely spend a couple hours for sure. Obviously, you got to download their must-play songs that they want, especially if they're out there, right? Ones that I've never played before or downloaded. You got to get their special songs, the first dance, the parent dances, all those things too. Sometimes you get those couples that'll give you a ton of songs and you got to download a ton of stuff. But a lot of my clients that I deal with are super laid back and chill. And I think it's because I've helped build that trust in them, and they have the ability to step back and say, he's going to make it work. So a lot of the clients that I have, they're just like, Justin, do your thing. Here's 3 songs we love. Here's the style we want. So when it comes to prepping for the wedding, I would say it's kind of minimal when it's a wedding like that, because I already have go-to playlists for songs where I have tons of free reign. When a client's a little more picky, then I obviously need to spend more time on their playlist. What I usually do, and like I said before, I'll ask them like, what kind of genres do you like? Do you like hip hop? Do you like pop? Do you like this? And do you like that? And I will get those yes and no's. And the ones that they say yes, I just drag my 2000s pop playlist into their thing. And, of course, if they're like, we hate Taylor Swift, like, all right, take Taylor Swift out. Or we hate Pitbull, take Pitbull out. Cool. But for the most part, that's kind of how I work with it. And then, of course, you got to sprinkle in their must plays and stuff like that. But I would say that's pretty much how it goes.
That's cool. Working with the couple, it's a two-way street, like you said, and planning that playlist is vital, because the DJ can really make or break the success of your wedding. I remember a study once that asked guests, what do they remember afterwards? They remember the food and they remember if they had a good time.
Yep.
So DJs are vital for sure.
And I'm not really a big foodie. Like I don't eat a ton of sweets, or I'm not the kind of person to like glorify food. Like, oh my God, we're going to this restaurant. I'm just all like, is it good? Like, that's it. So when I go to a wedding as a guest, I just care if I had a good time, and some people love food and that's that. But like, yeah, you're totally right. Like they don't remember what color the flowers were. They don't remember what party favor they got at the end, unless it's like super cool. But they do remember if they had a bad time or not. And, a lot of times I'll ask clients during our initial meeting, when was the last time you went to a wedding as a guest? And they're like, oh, we went to a wedding a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. And I'm like, what was something that really stood out to you about that wedding in a good way? And notice how I say in a good way. They always go negative every time, every single time. Even if I ask them, what is the best part about that wedding? They say, well, the wedding was good, but the DJ was it's just so funny how they always turn negative. It's just so odd to me, but it's a great way to show your expertise too, because they're like, oh, the DJ did this or DJ did that. And then I basically explain why that might have happened and how we would do it differently. And it's a good way for them to be, oh, thank God, to really give yourself more credibility.
I love that tip. Nobody's mentioned that before. Just getting their opinions about weddings they've attended already. And I think it's important to say too, that if they're attending no weddings, then you kind of know, okay, I can go with kind of the standard stuff because they're not hearing it all the time. Because guess maybe they attend 1 or 2 weddings a year, so they're not hearing the Pitbulls or Taylor Swifts every weekend. Where couples that are in their 20s and 30s, maybe this is their 5th wedding, so maybe I don't want to play the common stuff because they've heard it the last 4 weddings before.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
So is there something that we missed today you wanted to share about creating wedding playlists?
I mean, when it comes to wedding playlists, really just understand who you are as a DJ, right? The first step is always, what do you want to play at a wedding, and focus on that, because nobody goes online and search up generic wedding DJ. They want the guy that can master their style, right? And so you're a good wedding DJ, but you're an expert in 2000s hip hop. Shine on that. Make that your highlight. Be like, I can do 90s pop and I can do country and this and that. But if you want a 2000s hip hop party, I'm your guy. Really figure out what that thing is that you really shine on it and lean towards it. And after that, your ideal client, it's going to be so easy for your ideal client to find you and want you and pay whatever it costs.
I think that's such a great tip. So if your forte is 90s R&B, that's the vibe you need to put out on all of your social media, your website, everything, because that's the kind of client that you're going to attract. If you're everything to everybody, then
you're just another DJ. And at that point, it's just based on price. So like, who can give me the best price and do the same thing? Right.
That's such a great final golden nugget there. So I know that I can search anywhere on social media, Justin the DJ, you're going to pop up, but can you just tell listeners where they can connect with you and find you?
Yeah, so Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, you could just look up Justin the DJ. There might be a period or underscore on one of them, but usually if you search up Justin the DJ and all those platforms, you'll find me there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Justin, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody for listening. Stay tuned for next 2 weeks for another episode of the Wedding Songs Podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Songs Podcast. Never miss a future episode. Subscribe today to our podcast. Follow us on Facebook at My Wedding Songs and send us a message about playlists you would like covered.